Hello, welcome to episode 14 of Kelly's Roadhouse, the podcast where we recap every single Sweet Valley High book in the series. My name's Paula and I'm here with Rich.
Hello. 14 already.
I know, I can't believe it. So as it's episode 14, we're doing book 14.
Yes.
Which is Deceptions. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this one since the beginning. I've been really, really looking forward to it.
I can absolutely see why. This book is unbelievable.
It's so bad, it's good. It's just ridiculous.
Can I ask you a non-spoiler question about this book?
Yeah.
Without going into spoilers, who do you hate most coming out? Who are you most shocked at in this book?
Well, I started off hating Nicholas.
Same.
And then in the middle, I hated Liz more.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end, I just fucking hated them all.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to say Enid as well.
Yeah, Enid.
I was shocked. We'll get to it, but there's a reaction, and I was like, you seem okay with this. Fine.
And Jess has got her own scheming in this, but it's just overshadowed completely.
Normally,
for once.
The conversation would be around, oh my god, I can't believe Jess did this. She's so awful. But everyone else is so much more awful in this book than Jess that it's fine.
She even breaks the law, but it just seems okay.
Does. Yeah. She could literally do jail for what she did, but or not. Actually, no, she couldn't because she's a student, but she's a kid. But in theory. Anyway.
So yeah, we've got a pink cover,
mm-hmm.
and it's got Nicholas and Elizabeth on the front.
Yes.
And I can barely look at them.
Nicholas looks suitably greasy and creepy.
He's the one standing behind, the classic pose where someone's standing behind someone else. It's usually Liz standing behind people, but it's actually him standing behind Liz.
Yeah, he's a very tall boy, is Nicholas Morrow.
Liz looks a bit she looks a bit naughty.
Well, she is a bit naughty, so to say
and
the least.
He looks sleazy. And I think he looks like Michael from Grease 2. Yeah.
Grease 2 is underrated.
I know.
I know this is not a movie podcast, but guys, Grease 2, it's really underrated.
And it says, has Elizabeth found a new love? That is the question on the front cover.
I don't think that's the question they should be asking, but we'll get to that.
And on the back it says, a tangled web. Elizabeth Wakefield is stunned when Nicholas Morrow asks her for a date. A newcomer to Sweet Valley, Nicholas is fabulously wealthy and extremely handsome. Even though Elizabeth would never cheat on Todd Wilkins, her steady boyfriend, Nicholas is so attractive and sincere that she agrees to go out with him just once. So she's cheating on him.
So even though she would never cheat on
she's going to cheat on him.
She's going to cheat on him.
To make matters worse, Jessica, Elizabeth's scheming twin, announces that Nicholas Morrow is the boy for her. Suddenly, Nicholas is the only thing on Jessica's mind. Elizabeth is terrified to think what will happen if Todd or her twin finds out about her date with Nicholas. Well, not terrified enough not to do it. Yeah.
Also, Jessica was clearly obsessed with Nicholas in the last book.
Yeah.
So it's not a new thing.
And then it says, but who can keep a secret from Jessica Wakefield?
Well, who indeed? Let's find out.
So just a warning before we start, this is likely to be us really ranting for most of this episode.
Particularly about Liz.
We were outraged.
I was outraged, but I was very amused.
Yeah.
So I had a wonderful time with this book.
We begin literally where the last book finished.
Yeah, immediately on from Kidnap. So the end of Kidnap, we had the party.
Yeah,
and the party is now going.
The party was Liz's welcome home from being kidnapped party.
Yes, welcome back from being kidnapped party.
And Liz has just answered the door to Nicholas.
Yeah.
That's where it ended last time. And Nicholas was being all creepy and weird.
Yeah.
And he's still being creepy and weird.
Immediately.
It says he's just staring at her with his dark, soulful eyes, as if he was mesmerised.
Yeah, he's just staring at her. And then Jess is like, I'll go get Jess.
Yeah. And it says Liz could tell he was intelligent just by looking into his eyes. How?
I questioned that myself. You can tell he's creepy just by looking into his eyes, but I don't know how you get intelligent. But
by
apparently,
someone staring at you like a gormless dork.
Yeah.
Does that make them look intelligent?
Apparently, he is handsome and could put a Greek god to shame, though.
Yeah.
Which I guess goes a long way with Liz.
So then
she also says she can tell he's compassionate as well. She tells a lot by like one look at this person.
Yeah, psychic.
Yeah,
Eyes
apparently.
the window to the soul.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget, she also thought that Carl the orderly was lovely in like a day ago.
Yeah.
See where that ended up, Liz.
And then they awkwardly shoehorn in the description of the girls.
Of course.
Sun-streaked hair, eyes the colour of the Pacific Ocean. But Jessica's clever and devious, and Liz is fairness and honesty personified.
Bollocks.
They've used that again. Must be a certain ghostwriter that uses that one.
In this one, they're going to use that
I know.
one? At the start of this book, really?
So, Liz leads Nicholas into the living room where the droids are belting out a fast number.
I put a note here saying that their neighbours must fucking love them.
Yeah.
They've literally got a band in their living room.
A rock band
A
in their
rock
living
band.
room.
Sweet Valley High's answer to the Rolling Stones, I'll have you know.
Of course, yeah. And then Todd spots Liz and his face lights up. But the droids switch to a slow and dreamy number, and Nicholas asks Liz to dance.
Yeah.
And apparently she doesn't want to, but she thinks as hostess, I should try and make Nicholas feel welcome. Like making him feel welcome is offering him a drink and saying, come in, I'll take your coat.
Absolutely.
Not like doing a slow dance with him.
Yeah, like let me introduce you to the people who are here.
Yeah. Or maybe take you to see my sister who's madly in love with you.
Or my boyfriend who is stood right there waiting for me. And to make things worse, so she feels that she has to dance with him to be a good host, I guess. But to make things worse, it makes a point of saying that she smiles at Todd while doing it. And it, like, to me, it just came across even worse. It's like, so now it looks like you're almost taunting him as you do it.
Yeah. Apparently she was trying to send Todd an unspoken message that like she'd join him after this song. It's like, well, how is he supposed to know that's what you're doing? And
also, if you are sending that message, then make sure you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
And Nicholas says to her, this song's about you. And that I was like, oh, he's being so cheesy.
So did I. I thought it was going to be like a really lovely love song, and he was going to be, oh, this song's about you.
But she listens to the lyrics, and it actually is about her. Yeah. So the droids have written a song about her to welcome her home.
Yeah.
And we don't get to find out the lyrics to this thing.
I like to think that because Max was struggling so much with his English, and Elizabeth helped him. He used his newfound English skills to write this song for Liz.
I want to know what the lyrics were.
Yeah, normally you get the page excerpts and stuff, from the Oracle. Why didn't we get some lyrics?
I'm sure they were way over the top about how great Liz is, and
well, who isn't?
How wonderful she is.
Yeah.
Nicholas tells her that. She asks him about college, and he says he's taking a year off to learn about his father's computer business.
The computer business.
So yes, having a gap year. He tells her she's very pretty, and he starts to get flirty.
Yeah.
So she makes her excuses, and she says she has to say hi to Robin and Alan.
Yes, who have just turned up. She probably has to dance with each of them as well to be a good host.
Yeah. She heads to the kitchen, and they have a chat about how great it is that Max has passed English.
Yeah.
So in case anyone was listening to the last episode and they were desperate to know, did he pass the English test on Othello?
He did. Which has allowed him to play with the droids this evening. Yeah, he's made it.
And then Nicholas has fucking followed her into the kitchen.
Now get used to this.
Yeah.
Listeners.
He just interrupts them.
He just appears behind her all the time.
Yeah.
And he appears and he says, I think
exactly
he's the
like
greatest.
On the cover.
Yeah, exactly like on the cover. And he just appears over her shoulder and is just like, I think he's the greatest guitar player I've ever seen. It's like, well, settle down. He's, I mean, I guess they are the Sweet Valley dancers of the Rolling Stones.
And then he tells Liz that he wasn't going to let her out of his sight.
Yeah, like
that's weird.
That's weird. And in front of, people you don't know as well. You've just said that.
Yeah. She feels uncomfortable. As you would.
She was literally kidnapped by a psychopath yesterday. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. It's like a week later, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, it is a week. Yes, It's been a week. Yeah.
Because on the weekend she came home, Jessica was like, we'll throw you a party
next Friday. Yeah. So it's been a week since she was kidnapped.
Yeah.
And was going to be taken away by this guy to the middle of nowhere to live out the rest of her life with him, forcibly. And now this guy...
And Nicholas knows this because he was helping to search for her.
He was helping search, yeah.
So And then he asks her to dance again. And it's like, she's just made her excuses.
Yeah.
Like, to get away from a dance with you. Like, take a hint, don't ask her again.
Absolutely.
But before she can even get a chance to answer, he apparently whirls her off.
Yeah, so apparently I'm assuming he like grabs her by the hand and pulls her into the dance floor kind of almost forcibly. Yeah.
Jessica's noticed this and she's not happy.
No, she is looking suitably annoyed.
Neither is Todd, funnily enough.
I don't blame at all. I don't blame Jess or Todd being annoyed about this, to be honest.
And then after this dance, Nicholas drags her straight off to meet Regina, and she tries to say she's got to go, like, obviously to see Todd, but he won't take no for an answer.
Yeah, he really lays it on thick about Regina to like kind of keep her there. She needs
to assert herself.
Yeah, definitely.
So they go out to the patio. Regina's on the patio with Lila and Cara.
Yeah.
And Liz gasps, "Oh, Nicholas, she's so pretty."
I know. She, like... Oh, they never talk about Regina as if she's a real person.
Like she's some kind of doll.
Yeah. And they always talk about her disability as if it's kind of China doll. Horrendous.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, she's deaf. How awful. It's like, oh, my goodness. What a terrible life she must have. And then whenever they're around her, like, oh, she's so pretty. It's like, she stood right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, she can lip read.
They seem to have a way of talking about it as well, where they're like, well, she's deaf, but at least she's pretty.
At least, at least
it does seem
pretty.
A bit like that,
I guess
the way
that's
they talk.
Fine. Yeah.
Or it's almost like they're shocked that she's pretty because, you know, you can't be deaf and pretty.
And pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no.
So
and I was liking Regina until this point.
Regina tells Liz she's read the Eyes and Ears column, and she says Liz must be the most talented person in Sweet Valley.
The whole place.
Like what?
More talented than anyone else.
Yeah.
Because she writes for the Oracle newspaper, the school newspaper. A column, not the whole thing.
A column that is crap from what we've heard.
We've read.
Yeah.
They've put excerpts.
We've read bits
we know.
Of it.
This is
crap.
the thing. I actually put a note about this. Like, I actually put, for a moment here, I thought that maybe Liz is actually brilliant at writing and we're wrong. And then I remembered they've actually put passages in the book. And it is terrible. She's an awful writer. I love, though, Cara and Lila are there sucking up to Regina because she's rich.
Of course.
They get bored and walk off when they start talking about the Oracle.
Yeah.
I was like, good.
And then they all go back inside.
Yeah.
And Nicholas is just following Liz around like a lost puppy.
Yeah.
And then when Liz goes to answer the door, Jess swoops in.
Of course.
And she tells Nicholas there are at least 137 people dying to meet him.
137.
And she drags him to the den to meet Alice and Ned. And we're told again, as usual, how athletic looking Ned is. And how Alice could be the twin sister.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Of course. Because, you know, we these are the things we have to go through in every book.
Yeah.
Yes, and then, of course, she takes Nicholas to go and meet Stephen.
Oh, this bit really annoyed me.
And on the way up, she thinks to herself that she's relieved Trisha isn't here because, you know, she's from a shit family and she's all dying and miserable.
Yeah.
So she's glad.
This annoyed me because she takes him to Stephen's room, even though we were told earlier in the book that Stephen is depressed
really
about
depressed
Trisha
because she's like
dying of leukemia.
Yeah, he wants to be alone.
He doesn't want to see people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then in Stephen's room, she forces Stephen and Nicholas to have this like awkward small talk conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, leave him alone.
Just let the guy be alone. He's got so much on. Can you even imagine that kind of, you know?
She's just dragging some random guy up to his room that he's never met.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then she takes him back to the living room, and she tells him that Sweet Valley was such a bore before he arrived.
Yeah.
But I think what she meant is that she'd ran out of guys to date before he arrived.
I think you might be right,
like,
actually.
Fresh blood.
She has gone through quite a list of them to get to this point.
Yeah.
And they've all been pretty awful, but
he's barely listening as he's looking around for Liz.
Yeah.
And then she snaps her fingers in his face, like, pay me attention.
Pay me attention, yeah.
And he says he's in the clutches of one of the most beautiful girls in the world.
Ooh.
And obviously, as you would, she thinks he means her.
Yes.
Because, you know, that's normal.
Yeah, that is normal, yeah.
But she's not. He's not. He's talking about Elizabeth.
Of course he is, yeah.
And she pulls him up to dance, and he says he has to leave early as some VIPs are coming in tomorrow.
For his father's business.
Yeah, they're going to negotiate a business deal with his father.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to be there. And he walks away quite abruptly, and she's like, Well,
he says he has to go and say goodbye to Liz before he leaves. Yeah.
So meanwhile, Todd tells Liz that she looks thirsty, and he goes to get her a drink. And literally even says, within 5 seconds of Todd leaving to get a drink for Liz, Nicholas is there.
Yeah, it's immediate.
And he goes up behind her, as usual.
Which is his thing. This is what he does the whole way through
the book.
Goes
up behind her.
He just appears from out of nowhere.
He grabs her. He goes up behind her and grabs her shoulder. It's like, don't go up behind people and grab them, especially when they've just been kidnapped. Don't do it anyway.
Don't do it anyway. Unnecessary physical contact. Just don't. From behind, sneaking up on someone that was literally kidnapped.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
He tells Liz that he's sorry for following her around all night. So he even fucking knows he's been doing it.
It's like, you know what you're doing. Rather than apologise, just don't do it in the first place.
I know. And then he says this is one of the most difficult things he's ever said. But
can we, before we get to that, can we establish, before we get to the next line, how long do you think Nicholas has been at this party with Liz to get to this point? The entire time he's known Liz.
45 minutes, an hour?
Let's go with an hour. We'll go on the outside. An hour. Go for it.
He says, this is one of the most difficult things I've ever had to say. But I've just got to say it. I'm falling in love with you.
1 hour. 1 hour.
And she quite rightly points out that he doesn't even know her.
Well, Nicholas says that doesn't matter. He loved her from the moment he saw her. Which is weird to me because Jess looks the same.
Yeah.
I was like, if it's only appearances, then...
Maybe he could tell by Liz's eyes that she was intelligent.
Yeah, maybe.
Apparently that's the thing.
I did like the next bit, though, which I'm guessing you've got covered. The moonlight thing.
Yeah, go on.
So Liz asks if it was when he saw her under the moonlight when she answers the door, and he says that it was. And Liz says, yeah, moonlight does strange things to people, so you'll feel different about it in the morning.
It turns you into a werewolf.
Yeah, maybe.
That's in like 90-something books' time.
We will get there. We will definitely get there. But Nicholas, of course, argues he will feel exactly the same in the morning.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, by the way, there is a book. I think it's number 90-something, somewhere around there, where one of the twins actually dates a werewolf.
Yeah, for real.
So give us a couple of years and we'll be getting to that episode.
Oh, trust us. We will get to it.
There's also a vampire one as well. Shit gets really, really weird.
It's like in the 90s, isn't it? Somewhere around the 90s. Yeah.
It gets insane. So yeah, where were we? Yeah, she tells him that she's going out with Todd.
Yes, and of course... Nicholas remembers back to his party, or Regina's party.
Yeah.
And remembers that, he says, oh, Todd, the handsome basketball player.
And he says, I can't believe I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I can't believe you didn't know.
It was pretty obvious from the way Todd was acting at the party that he cared deeply for her.
I know. And she says, so you see? And he says, no, I don't see anything. And she says she likes him a lot, but she doesn't think she could ever be in love with him.
I mean, to be honest, after about an hour, I think likes you a lot is a bit of an exaggeration. To know that you like someone a lot after an hour.
And he hasn't even been with her for that whole hour. He's been with Jessica for quite a lot of
exactly,
it. And Stephen and Alice and Ned. And she says she doesn't think she could ever be in love with him.
No.
And he says, how can you tell? You don't even know me. And it's like, exactly. She doesn't even know you. Like, you don't know her, and you're saying you're falling in love with her?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, he then falls to manipulation. So he's now failed at this. So now he starts questioning, is it because he's unattractive?
Yeah. Am I ugly?
I mean, let's just put this into perspective. The last person who tried to force her to fall in love with her literally kidnapped her. A week later, Nicholas Morrow is trying to manipulate her into falling in love with her.
Yeah.
This is like, this would be disgusting behaviour if you ignore the kidnapping ever happened. But in context, this is so
Yeah.
much worse.
And then we get this really stupid bit. It's just not funny at all. He asks her if he looks like Frankenstein, and he makes a hideous face at her.
I assume he means the monster, not the doctor. Because Dr. Frankenstein was pretty handsome.
Yeah.
But...
And then he says, or Dracula, and he lets out a blood-curdling scream. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's not
normal behaviour.
Normal behaviour. It's certainly not a way that I would go about trying to
and
impress someone
then
either.
he says, or the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and he bends over and shoves his shoulders forward. Like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
He sounds like an absolute idiot.
He does. He sounds like an absolute moron. Of course, Liz says that he doesn't have bolts in his neck, so he can't be Frankenstein, and he doesn't have fangs, so he can't be Dracula. It doesn't say anything about the Hunchback bit, though.
She tells him she's one of the most attractive guys she's ever met.
That is not going to help matters, Liz.
No. And it's like, he knows he's attractive.
Yeah, he definitely
As we've
knows
been
he's
told
attractive.
about 15 times.
Yes.
Over the last 2 books, how amazing he is.
Well, he could, according to Liz, he could put a Greek god to shame.
Yeah, and I think in the last book it said he could, like, put a male model to shame or something.
Yeah, he's
like,
been,
they just go way
he's been
over the
upgraded.
top.
It was a male model last time, now it's a god.
Yeah. So... yeah, it's like, stop encouraging him, Liz.
Yeah.
But she reminds him again she's going out with Todd, and he says she's too young to be tied down. But it's like, well, you want to tie her down, though, because you're saying you're in love with her.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you saying that, okay, she gets with you, but then she can get with someone else anyway, because it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Or are you saying, oh, no, you don't want to be tied down to Todd, specifically, for me? Yeah.
And he keeps on and on.
He literally, this goes on. This goes on for, like, pages.
Yeah, she says she's got to go and say goodbye to some of the guests.
Yeah, because people are starting to leave.
You'd
now.
think now that he'd be like, okay, and he'd leave.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He just says, oh, I'll wait here for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just waits there for her. So when she goes back, he tells her she's afraid.
Yeah.
And he says, why won't you go out with me? Just once. That's all I'm asking. It's like, oh my God. She's already told you 2 reasons, and she doesn't even have to give you a reason anyway.
Well... I will say, though,
creep.
one thing that did happen, when she's saying goodbye to the departing guests, they're all wishing her, they're saying, oh, so glad you're home safe and all this.
Yeah.
While this is going on, she's actually thinking that Nicholas might be right about her getting too serious with Todd. She actually considers that. And I'm like, what? Really?
It's come out of nowhere.
She's just suddenly like, oh, maybe he's right.
She obviously has got a little crush on him.
Yeah.
And her eyes fill with tears as she thinks it's not fair that she's responsible for Nicholas's happiness. She's not fucking responsible for Nicholas's happiness.
She wants to be loyal to Todd, but also make Nicholas happy too.
You just met him a couple of hours ago.
And also...
surely you're going to put your own boyfriend above him.
And also, yeah, sorry, he fancies you, and you're going to have to turn him down.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
That's not...
He'll get over it.
He'll get over it, and I'm sorry, but life's not fair. You're already with someone who's in love with you and treats you really well and you're in love with. That's the end of that conversation.
Yeah.
There are some lines you cannot cross just to make someone happy. Oh no, this random person I met an hour ago, they say they really like me, so I guess I should go out with them because I don't want to upset them. What about Todd's happiness?
I know.
You're going to upset Todd for him. Like... Unbelievable.
Oh, we're only just getting started as well. It gets so much worse.
We're like in the first 30 pages, 40 pages here.
We are so angry at this book. So then he begs her to go out for dinner, and he says, it won't be a date, just dinner with a friend. And it's like, yeah, just dinner with a guy who's like just told you he's falling in love with you. That doesn't sound like a date at all, does it?
No, not at all.
And she thinks she doesn't want to make him feel uneasy by saying no. And it's like, he's been making you feel uneasy for the last couple of hours.
Yes, and just, it will be a lot less awkward if you just tell the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, really, just say, we're just friends and that's it.
So she agrees to go.
Yeah.
But she thinks she's going to have to tell Todd, as they've always been honest with each other.
Well, that's
so
about
weird.
to change.
And it's like, well, if it's not a date, just invite Todd anyway, then.
Yeah.
Just take Todd with you.
Yeah. But of course, Liz screwing up her relationship and getting involved with another man is not enough to distract her from spying on what Jess is up to. Jess is apparently...
sorry. First, he asks her if Saturday's okay.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
But she says that's her and Todd's date night.
Mm-hmm.
But she knows Sunday is Todd's mum's birthday and he'll be tied up all day celebrating the birthday. So she suggests they do it on Sunday. So she's basically deliberately gone for a day where Todd will be out of the way. She's
deliberately gone for a day as well, when not only is he out of the way, but she also knows that if she didn't tell him, he'd never have to know.
Yeah.
Because she's told herself...
So she's not planning on telling him.
This is the thing, because she says to herself, I have to tell him because we're always honest. That's what she thinks. But then not moments later, she's already planning it to where it's a day when she can conveniently, he'd never know. And it's almost like immediately she's like, well, I guess I don't have to tell him.
Yeah. So he says he'll call her on Wednesday to arrange it.
Yeah.
And like you said, meanwhile, Jessica is talking to Randy Mason, a lanky geek with horn-rimmed glasses. He's a computer whiz.
Yes. Now, apparently, Liz's heart sinks when she realises that Jess is probably up to something talking to him. And I'm like, your heart sinks about that? What about what you're up to, Liz?
Yeah. Worry about yourself.
She's still trying to be the goody-goody, even though she's doing something absolutely horrendous right now.
But she's only doing it because she doesn't want to make Nicholas feel uneasy.
She's just doing it because she cares, guys.
Yeah. Jessica's telling Randy that she's absolutely fascinated by computers.
Quote, I'm fascinated by computers. Just fascinated.
And she's going way over the
she's
top.
Ridiculously over the top.
So Elizabeth carries on eavesdropping, and Jess says, computers seem so complicated. I wouldn't know a bite from a nibble. And Randy offers to teach her some stuff, and she says, there's nothing in the whole world I like more.
Yeah. Oh.
What the hell? So but there is a reason behind this.
Of course there is. Yeah, of course there is.
Liz spots Todd on the patio, so she goes to see him. Mm-hmm. And she tells him she hardly had a chance to talk to him all evening. And he says, well, you were fine until Nicholas showed up, and you started acting like the lady from the welcome wagon. Who's the lady from the welcome wagon?
I was going to ask you. I thought you might know.
Is this something we're not aware of?
Yeah, I don't know.
She sounds nice. Sounds like a nice lady.
Lovely. Well, she sounds like a lady that just dances and goes on dates with random people.
Yeah. And Todd says that Nicholas was following her around all night. And then she just totally gaslights him now.
Yep.
And she says he's being jealous and paranoid.
Yeah.
But it's like, Nicholas was following you around all night because he even apologised to you for following you around all night.
Yes. And you know that it's inappropriate because you know you need to tell him that you're now going on a date with him.
But she's just like, oh, you're being jealous.
Even Nicholas apologised for his behaviour.
Yeah.
She could have said that. She could have said, yeah, he apologised for that. And he was being a bit over the top. But I guess you can't say that when you're going to go on a date with him anyway. But unbelievable. Todd is completely within his rights to be angry. She's ignored him all night at this point.
Yeah.
Pretty much. From the moment Nicholas turned up, Todd has had no conversation or even seen her, other than, I'll go get you a drink, Elizabeth, because you look thirsty.
Yeah. So Todd actually apologises to her for being jealous. And he says he knows he can trust her. And she thinks, right, now is the right time to tell him about the dinner.
Yeah.
But I don't think there will be a right time.
No.
When is the right time to be like, yeah, I'm going on a date with someone else?
This is the thing. She keeps in her head, she's like, oh,
I'll wait for the right time.
Not right now. But that's what she does the entire book now. It's like, it's always, but not right now. And then, well, we'll get to it in a bit. But yeah.
No, yeah, she thinks now isn't the right time to tell him about the dinner. I said the other way around, didn't I?
Oh, sorry, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, she thinks now isn't the time. So later on, Jessica tells Liz that she's in love with Nicholas, and she's sure that he feels the same way.
Yeah.
And Liz asks, what about Randy? And Jess says, well, isn't it obvious? I want to learn about computers to impress Nicholas.
Yeah, because Nicholas's father is in the computer business. He's going to take over the business someday. He wants to work with his father's business. So, of course, Jess thinks she needs to learn about computers. I don't know, though, why she... I guess she wants to amaze Nicholas with her knowledge of computers. But you'd think that a natural way to impress him is to show an interest in computers and say, I actually don't know much about computers. Can you show me, Nicholas?
Yeah.
Then you've got a reason to see him.
What she's doing to Randy, she should be doing with him.
She should be doing with Nicholas. I mean, obviously it wouldn't work, but she doesn't know that.
So Elizabeth realises she's going to have to keep the date a secret from Jessica.
Yeah.
So we cut to the
She
twins.
would have had to anyway. She would have had to anyway. She couldn't have told Jess, oh, by the way, I'm dating someone else.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Like, she'd never be able to keep that. That would never work.
So we cut to the twins on the way to school.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth has been allowed to drive the Fiat Spider.
Mm.
And Jessica asks Liz if she thinks she should wear the pale blue miniskirt and matching v-neck she's wearing on her date with Nicholas when he asks her.
Yes, because of course, you know, it's Jessica. She's like, he will ask me. There's no doubt. It's going to happen.
And Liz just switches off and she's thinking about her date with Nicholas and how to tell Todd.
Yeah.
And Jess interrupts her thoughts by saying, I don't need a ride home today because I've got some serious business with Randy Mason.
Yes, she has to go and learn about computers.
After school, Randy is anxiously waiting for Jessica under the big Romanesque clock outside the school.
There could be a drinking game in this book for the amount of times they talk about that Romanesque clock. It comes up about 5 times.
Yeah, and he's waiting underneath the Romanesque clock and he keeps checking his watch anxiously.
Yes.
It's like, you're underneath the fucking
Under
clock.
a clock. Take 2 steps back.
He's relieved when she arrives and she starts gushing about how wonderful it is that he's showing her how computers work.
Yeah.
But inside she's laughing at him and thinking she wouldn't usually give the nerd a second glance.
Yeah. So of course Randy takes Jess to his den, his home, and he shows her the computer, the mainframe, the monitor, and
he calls it his work center.
His work center. That is
He's really
dangerously
proud of
close
it.
to command center, isn't it? Just one away. I love the bit that he shows her a floppy disk, and Jess claims that she's never seen one before, even though she has.
Yeah.
It's just a complete lie.
He pats the computer proudly, the same way that Bruce pats his Porsche, and Jessica wonders if he polishes the computer every day. And she tells him, she lays it on really thick with like the dumb blonde act.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And she says, I can barely add 2 + 2. So yeah, he shows her, he holds up a disc and he says, this is called a floppy disk. And she's like, oh my God, really?
What is this?
Yeah. He looks surprised, as you would. And she wonders.
I would have thought most kids in the 80s knew what a floppy disk was.
And she wonders if she's overdone it. It's like, yeah, you might have a little bit.
You have, but luckily Randy is so lusting after you that it doesn't matter.
And then he shows her how to insert it into the disk drive.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, I see. And he's like, sure you do. You're intelligent and you can do anything you put your mind to. It's like, it's just inserting a disc.
She didn't even do it either.
Yeah.
You did it. She just watched you.
Yeah. She can do anything. Anything, you hear me?
Yeah. But of course, then he suggests that Jess run a program herself, which she does with relative ease because she's literally been shown not 2 seconds before. And of course, that leads to Randy saying, see, I told you could do it. And he like makes out like she's a genius just for running a program.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And of course, Jess says she couldn't have possibly done it without him. And he makes everything interesting.
And then she's really bored though, as he throws around words like CPM, Fortron, and Sysgen.
Yeah.
After she runs the program, she says, "Oh, if only I was this good at maths." And he says, "I could help you with that too," but she says nobody can help her with that, and she's just beyond help.
Oh no.
So back at the Wakefields' house, Jessica emerges from Liz's closet holding a turquoise jumpsuit.
Yeah, and Liz immediately scolds her for taking her outfit.
She yells at her, "Put that back!" And Jessica says that you always let me borrow clothes.
Yeah.
And then Liz apologises.
And so she should.
She says, "Sorry for shouting. Of course you can wear it."
Yeah.
And
you can't start this morality about, I can't upset people, so I have to go on dates, and then start shouting at Jess.
Yeah, don't you want to make her happy?
You don't want
to make her feel uneasy, do you?
Don't make her feel unhappy.
And Jessica tells her she's the kindest, best-hearted person in the world.
All right, Jess. You've got the dress now.
Yeah, and the best writer. Everyone loved her last story in the article. She'd written about a computer that Kurt Morrow had decided to donate to the school. So Kurt Morrow is Nicholas's father.
Yes.
And this computer is going to be used to keep records of the students' grades.
Yes, apparently it's the wave of the future.
Yeah. Jessica had been worrying about her failing maths grade.
Yeah.
As if she fails a subject, she's barred from cheerleading.
Yeah, we established
That's
this.
really harsh.
Yeah, we established this before. But it's the same with all of them, isn't it?
What was that? It was like basketball or something.
I think anything extracurricular they can only do.
I'm trying to remember
keep
the
their
situation where we had it before.
I think it was. It was Liz with the Oracle when she had her head injury.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. And then she read an article in the Sweet Valley News about kids who are known as hackers.
What do they do, Paula?
They plug into computers all over the state and they alter data.
Oh my God.
She thought all these hackers were probably nerds like Randy Mason. And then she had an idea.
I wonder what that idea could be.
At the Dairy Burger that evening, Randy is tucking into his fried clam special.
Oh, these meals always sound so gross. Guys, tell us, are fried clams really nice? Because they sound disgusting.
Randy confesses to Jessica that he's never had a girlfriend. And she says that that's hard to believe. And he's shocked that she thinks that. He's so shocked that he forgets he's pouring ketchup onto his clams. And he just sits there
just pouring a whole bottle, I guess. Yeah.
She points to his plate and it looks like a scene from a horror film. This sounds even more disgusting now. Oh,
yeah,
God.
It sounded disgusting enough. Now you've just made it worse.
And he shrugs and says, I just really like ketchup. She carries on flattering him, telling him what a genius he is. And she asks if he would teach her maths.
Yes. So now she's decided, maybe you can help me with maths.
Mm. He proudly puffs his chest out. He puffs it out so far that Jessica thinks he's going to split his t-shirt open. And he says to her, results are guaranteed.
Oh, and he will meet her on Thursday night.
Yeah. So back to Liz and Jessica at the mall later on.
Yes. Because one of our favourite shops has new dresses.
Foxy Mamas.
Yeah.
They're looking in the window at a low-cut pink dress.
And
then somebody comes up behind them.
I wonder who it could be appearing behind them. He says, if it isn't the Wakefield twins.
Yeah, and he also says, I didn't expect to see you here. It's like, I bet you did.
Well, I think that's the reason you are here.
You've been tracking
if I'm
their
honest.
movements.
I honestly think he's stalking her through this book.
I do too.
It's because she even says, Liz is like, I thought you were busy all the time and didn't have time for this. And he's like, I guess I got time to hang around the mall on my own for no reason.
Yeah. Jessica starts going on to him about how fascinating computers are. She says the word fascinating so many times.
I know. Yeah. She's trying to sound sophisticated, I think.
Yeah, that was in the other book. She kept saying the word sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
now fascinating is the next word that she's obsessed with.
Yeah.
Everything's fascinating. And he quotes Liz's article at them and he says they're the wave of the future.
Yes, the wave of the future. You could do a drinking game on that as well. That comes up.
Yeah. Jessica says, you're part of that wave. And he says, well, it's more like a ripple. And she laughs like that's the funniest fucking thing ever.
Of course, she goes way over the top.
Yeah.
And I think at this point she realizes again. There's a couple of times in this book where Jess realizes she's gone too far with her being over the top.
And then as he's leaving, she calls out to him, "Call me anytime."
Yes, and of course Jess assumes that he's talking about her.
Yeah, because he says he'll see them around. Something.
He says, I'll see you around. And of course, he is staring directly at Liz.
Yeah, as usual. And then she tells Liz she's going to buy the pink dress ready for when he asks her out.
Yeah.
On Wednesday night, Liz is pacing around, waiting for him to call.
Yeah.
To set up their date on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Their date that's not a date.
The date that's not a date, yeah.
And she's worrying that Jess will find out and go into one of her Technicolor rages.
Well, to her horror, the phone rings. And of course, Jess says she'll get it, but Liz is panicking now. So Liz rushes to the phone and answers it, and it's Randy.
Yeah. And then she thinks she knows she shouldn't have agreed to go out with him, but she tells herself it'll be okay. It's like, just fucking cancel it.
Yeah, just cancel it.
And then when he finally calls, she's got butterflies in her stomach as they're talking.
That's guilt.
And she hopes that he'll suggest somewhere they won't be seen by anyone she knows.
Yeah, and it's weird because he asks if there's anywhere she knows they can go, and she just says, "Oh, I can't think of anywhere." And it's like, well, I'm sure you can. You know of a lot of places. And I'm a bit weird. It's a bit weird that she doesn't just suggest somewhere out of town.
Yeah, and she's glad when he suggests the Côte d'Or. I don't know if that's pronounced right.
I didn't even write it down in the hopes that you'd pronounce it and I wouldn't have to.
The Côte d'Or.
Côte d'Or.
It's an hour drive away, and it's too expensive for most people they know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's glad.
So she thinks she's safe.
Yeah. He says he'll pick her up, and she says, I'll meet you there.
Again.
So seedy.
It's so seedy. And again, Liz has gone out of her way now to pick somewhere outside of town, right?
She won't let him pick her up.
So to be absolutely clear, Liz is fully... Because Liz keeps justifying it to herself that it's not a date. I'm just doing it because I'm being nice. I just want to be nice to him. It's just friends. But why are you choosing a place outside of town? You know exactly what you're doing, and you know exactly how awful you're being, and you're actively trying to hide it.
Yeah.
She tries to convince herself that she's being innocent, but she is active. She knows how bad she's being. And
on Thursday, she still hasn't told Todd.
No.
So she decides to call Enid because she needs a friend.
Can't believe it.
She explains all about it to Enid, and she says how she doesn't want to go, but she promised. Just don't fucking go.
But what I don't believe is how cool Enid is with this.
Yeah.
She is ridiculously okay with the concept of Liz cheating on Todd, and she the only thing she asks is what Jess will think.
Yeah. Because she tells Enid that he said he's falling in love with her, and Enid's like, well, you'll just have to go then.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
Fine.
Why will she just have to go?
Oh,
and
God.
She's whinging on, and she created this problem for herself.
Yeah. So she also then says that, you know, she'll have to go on the date, like you said, but that she'll have to tell Todd, and, you know, he'll be understanding.
Yeah.
There is no being understanding about your partner going on a date with someone else.
No.
There's no level of understanding. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like...
But yeah, it's like, he'll understand.
No, he won't.
I know,
no one's going to
understand.
No one's going to understand this.
So meanwhile, at Randy's house, Jessica's playing the bimbo in distress.
Yes, continuing.
And she says to him that maths isn't as interesting as computers.
Yes.
And he says, do you want to take a break from it and run a program? She turns on the computer and inserts a disc. And he says she's absolutely sensational. She's literally just turned it on and put in a disc.
Yeah.
Sensational.
She did the equivalent of a child putting the right shape in the right hole and then pressed a power button.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely sensational. He says, pretty soon you'll know as much about computers as me.
And then she casually says, I've read about these people plugging into computers or something.
What is this? Plugging into other computers? Randy, of course, says, yes, you can do that, but it is illegal.
And she begs him to show her. I don't know anything about hacking. I literally know nothing.
Yeah.
I can only just work, I'm not very technical.
Sure.
But do you plug into computers?
Not physically.
Is it anything to do with a plug?
No, I think they mean connecting to a computer.
Because now it says how he does this, and this doesn't sound quite right to me.
So he just starts randomly hacking computers all over Sweet Valley.
Yeah, so she begs him to show her,
yeah.
And after some persuasion, he gives in. And he plugs in a cable, and the word password flashes up. He types something in, and the screen is suddenly full of info about the sales of a real estate company in Sweet Valley.
Yeah, so it's weird because he'd need to know the address of these computers. So either he's hacked them before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He just suddenly magically knows.
Yeah, it didn't seem quite right.
He just magically knows.
And then he types in another command, and he plugs into the data bank of a lumber dealer. And then he does it again and gets reports from a record manufacturer.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what?
he is a hacker and has done this before
Yeah.
and has these addresses. I don't understand how he's just randomly getting these.
No, I don't
these,
either.
But fine, I guess he's doing that.
Jessica's breathless with excitement.
Of course,
apparently.
she is
It's
blown
fascinating.
away. Blown away. And of course, finally, she gets to the point. The thing she's been trying to do this entire time. She asks, is it possible to connect to the Sweet Valley High computer?
He says it's possible, but I shouldn't.
Yeah. But Jess argues that's not like hacking the Pentagon or the FBI. I mean, it's still massively illegal, though.
Yeah. She tells him nobody would know, and she gives him the most adorable pout he's ever seen, and his defences collapse.
Yeah, I thought Randy is an idiot for doing this, right?
Yeah.
He is an absolute moron, but he's clearly deeply in lust with this girl. He's never had a girlfriend before. I feel a bit sorry for him, even though he's being an absolute idiot. Like, I do feel a bit sorry for him.
And then she says, can you find out my maths grade?
Just find it out.
Yeah.
Just take a look. Because I just want to know.
And he tells her that it's an F.
Yeah. But she looks upset. But he says, don't worry. You'll work at it and get it next time.
And she says her parents were ground her for 137 years.
137 specific years, yeah.
She starts sobbing.
Yeah.
And she says nothing will help unless.
Yeah. She looks up and she questions in her tearful gaze.
As if she's only just thought of it.
Yeah. Could the grade be changed using this hacking?
This plugging in.
Plugging in.
And he's horrified.
Yeah, he is totally against the idea. And he says, we shouldn't even be in the system. Shouldn't even be in it.
But she keeps on crying and crying until he agrees.
Yeah. And
he asks her what she wants, and she says a C- will do.
Yeah, I like to think that she's like sobbing, tearful-eyed, and then when he asks her what she wants to change it to, she immediately just cuts half. It's like, a C- be fine.
This is like, there's something in a TV episode, right? This isn't now.
There is. They make the
Winston.
grades. They make the grades worse somehow. Don't they
I
put
can't remember.
a worse grade in or something?
And yeah, it's Winston takes the place of Randy. Part of Randy.
Yeah. There's also the episode when they're on holiday on Lila's thing and they try and hack the. They try and change the price of the holiday and it all the money
the debt
they owe,
that they owe,
and they just make it worse and worse.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So when he's done, he asks her to go to the Dairy Burger later.
Yeah, but of course Jess has got what she wants now.
But her whole attitude has suddenly changed.
Yep.
And she's really cold, and she coldly tells him she's busy.
And also that she needs a lift home.
Yeah. She says, you can drive me home. Like, I will allow you to drive me home.
I will allow
bitch.
you to drive me home.
Yeah. And he says, he's like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like, he knows.
You do see.
When she gets home, she tells Liz that she's passing maths.
Yeah, she just, she's psychic. She just got a feeling.
Yeah.
She's got a feeling that she's going to pass maths.
And then she stops in front of Liz's full-length mirror, and she asks Liz, do I have wrinkles? Is my hair grey? Am I old?
What's wrong with me? Because Nicholas isn't returning her calls.
And Liz says, you are getting older. And Jessica says, that's a terrible thing to say.
And Liz rightly says everyone's getting older.
Yeah.
And, they look identical. I always find it funny when they have these conversations because, you both look the same as each other.
Yeah. And then she says, nobody cares about me. And she says, Nicholas is terribly cruel and callous.
Yeah. Liz feels guilty because she's literally going to go on a date with this guy.
Yeah.
But instead of saying anything, she just tells Jess to give him some time.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that that's not going to change anything.
And then the phone rings.
Oh my God.
Liz answers, and it's Randy.
Yeah.
And he wants to speak to Jess, but Jessica coldly brushes him off.
Yeah.
And hangs up on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sits on Liz's bed, rocking back and forth in despair. Like, she sounds actually deranged.
Yeah, she thinks that she'll explode if he asks her on another date.
And then Randy calls back again.
Yes,
And
it's...
Jess says, tells Liz to talk to him.
Yeah.
So Liz answers, and before she gets a chance to say she's not Jessica,
Yeah.
he just goes off into this long speech about
says, "Do you have any idea what I've done?"
And he says, "When I changed your maths grade like you asked me to, do you have any idea what I've done? Plugging into a computer like that is a federal offence. I could go to jail. I'll never get a job. My whole future is at stake."
Yeah, his dream is to become a programmer, and he feels that obviously now, if this came out, they'd never hire him.
And Liz is just too stunned to speak. And he tells her that I've thought about it. I've decided to try and change your grade back. But when I tried, the computer access code had been changed. And I think the school is onto us.
Oh no.
So I'm going to turn myself into Mr. Cooper, and I want you to go with me.
Yeah. Liz audibly gasps when she hears this.
Yeah. And she chokes out that she'll be there.
Yeah.
Still pretending she's
Jess.
Jess.
So pretending to be Jess. Of course, then Liz hangs up and confronts Jess. But Jess literally doesn't care. She is so carefree about all of this.
Yeah.
I think she must have... I get the impression from this that Jess has been in trouble with Cooper before and just somehow got away with it because she's so blasé about this. She's like, "That's fine, don't worry about it."
And Jessica plays all innocent, and she's like, "Oh, that was nothing." And she's like, "Randy was so nice when he saw how worried I was about failing."
Yeah.
But Liz, for a change, is not having any of it.
No, Liz, for once, is actually putting her foot down. And she says, "You need to go with him because he's going to go and hand himself in."
Yeah. She says, "Even if I have to pick you up by the scruff of your neck and drag you there, you're going to Mr. Cooper's office."
Yeah. Yeah. And she does. She does, even to the point she goes to wait in the car, and when she's taking too long, she starts beeping the horn, telling her to come down.
Apparently she punches the horn with her fist. In Mr. Cooper's office, Randy's already there.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Elizabeth goes in as well.
I didn't understand this at all.
No.
But
she's
yes.
got to get involved in everything.
She's got to, yeah. Jess, basically Liz is there kind of giving Jess evils to make sure that Jess says that she was complicit and that it wasn't just Randy doing it.
Jess tries to charm her way out of it, and she's like, "Oh, we didn't mean any harm." And
she's like, "It's hardly a crime," and Mr. Cooper's like, "It fucking is a crime, actually. It's a federal offence." Yeah.
Mr. Cooper says that Randy has admitted full responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But Jess, Liz is looking at her like
Liz
you said.
is, yeah.
And so she has to admit it was both of them.
And
she says, "Oh, we must have changed my grade." It's like, well, oops, yeah, you must have.
Oops,
she acts like it was some kind of accident.
I guess we were just looking and then we accidentally just pressed C-.
Yeah, that's what she acts like they've done.
Okay.
He says that I could suspend you.
Well, yes. So he says that he's going to suspend them, or he's thinking about it. But Liz, get ready for the end of this storyline. The end of this storyline is that Liz convinces Mr. Cooper to do absolutely nothing about it. He changes the grade back to an F. They don't get suspended. They don't even get detention. Nothing. End of story.
Yeah.
They both get away scot-free.
Mr. Cooper literally says, "Okay, I'll give you both another chance, but only because of Elizabeth."
And Elizabeth,
why?
By the way, did nothing in this. She just stood there.
Yeah.
And made sure Liz told the truth. Just told the truth. That's all she did. And yet, for some reason, they just get away scot-free fine. Don't worry about it. If that happened in school, a suspension would be the minimum. Regardless of no matter how much you beg.
You've literally hacked into a computer.
You literally need to learn for this lesson. That is illegal.
And at home, Jessica begs Liz not to tell their parents. And I would have thought that Mr. Cooper would have at least told their parents.
No.
Even if he hasn't even suspended them or anything.
Well, he was going to.
Calling the parents would be the least you would do.
He was going to, but Liz standing in the room just made him change his mind.
Yeah. And Jessica tells Liz she's a mess. And Liz is like, "Oh, we all make mistakes." But Jess is looking into a compact mirror and she says, "I'm talking about my smudged eye makeup."
Yeah. Jess has learnt nothing, got away with this scot-free. I also liked that as they leave, Randy, quote, feebly waves goodbye to them. He knows he's never seen Jess again.
Yeah,
like
that's
that was it. That was your one chance.
On Friday at school, Liz tells Enid that she still hasn't told Todd about the date. And the reason she gives, she says, because I wanted to do it in private and I haven't been alone with him.
Yeah, you could have made time.
So you fucking ask him to be alone with you.
Exactly,
then.
you could have made time. Enid, again, she's like, I can't imagine how hard this must be for you. Like,
she created this mess herself.
I know, and any good friend would tell you that. They'd be like, you've created this situation. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, this must be so difficult for you. I'd be like, well, you're an absolute idiot, aren't you? Like, you've caused this.
Yeah. She urges Liz to tell him, and we're reminded again of Enid's druggy past.
Yeah,
when
this
she got
comes up
hopped
a lot
up on
lately.
Benny's.
Yeah, hopped up on Benny's.
And she hid it from Ronnie.
Yeah.
They do bring, every time anyone's got a secret, we're reminded of Enid's druggy past. Every time.
Yeah.
Enid says again, Todd's a nice guy and he'll understand. Why the fuck should he understand?
He's not going to understand. No one's going to understand this. It's not something to understand.
So imagine what Liz would say if Todd
it was the other way
on a
around
date with somebody.
She
wouldn't like it.
Liz,
she didn't like it when he was talking to his old friend Patsy.
She hated it. He was just being nice to her, and she hated it.
Yeah.
Like, Todd's going on a date with Regina Morrow.
Yeah, he's just being nice.
Oh, Liz, you're not being very understanding about the fact that Todd's going on a date with Regina Morrow. How dare you?
On Saturday, it's the date night of Todd and Liz.
Yes, she's decided that it's today or never, basically. Well, it is literally today or never.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow is the date day, yeah.
They're at the cinema and they're watching a horror film called Teen Terror.
I know, I want to see it. Teen Terror.
Liz is snuggling into Todd and she's wishing that she hadn't made the date with Nicholas. It's not a binding contract. I know. Fucking cancel it then.
You could completely still cancel.
She obviously doesn't wish she hadn't made it. She wants to go.
This is how conceited Liz is in this book, and how manipulative, and like she's. This is why I always say that I think she's worse than Jessica, because Jessica is honest. She's honest about what she's doing, and she's just, like I said so many times, Jess is a shark. She acts like a shark. She knows she's a shark. She just goes. She does it. But Liz has to convince herself that she's doing the right thing and she's doing it for the right reasons, whilst being just as bad, if not worse than Jess. Even for this would be low for Jess. This would be really low for Jess.
Yeah. So afterwards they head to the Dairy Burger.
Yeah.
And Betsy Martin saunters in with a date.
Yes, they're shocked because Betsy usually hangs out at our pub.
Yeah. They're both drunk and they're kicking off at the manager. The manager doesn't want to serve them.
Yeah.
And Todd says she's trash. And he thought she only hung out at places like Kelly's Roadhouse.
Oh my god. Not that shithole.
And Liz says it's such a terrible shame.
Yes, it's so tragic.
Such a terrible shame, as Trisha is so sweet.
Yes, Trisha's lovely. Yeah.
So that's just a bit of foreshadowing, that part.
Yes, I assumed it was. We're setting up for future books there.
Yeah. Todd's in a good mood, though, and he's hyped about Monday night's championship basketball game.
Yes, which Liz has completely forgotten about.
So she thinks now might be a good time to tell him about Nicholas.
Yeah, he's in a good mood now.
Yeah, he's in a good mood.
So I'm sure he'll be
ruin
fine.
it.
Like, no, he's really happy. So he'll completely be fine with me cheating on him because he's in a good mood.
So she starts off by saying how nice Regina is.
Yeah.
Try and get on to the subject of the Morrows.
Talking of the Morrows.
And Todd's like, yeah, shame about her brother.
Yeah, and I will say at this point, though, Liz says that Nicholas seems nice, and then Todd responds, why'd you bring him up? And it's like, Todd, technically you brought him up, because she was talking about Regina. You're the one that brought up Nicholas.
Yeah. And then Liz thinks, well, maybe I won't tell him after all.
Yeah, now I won't bother, yeah.
And she tries to find out what he's doing for his mum's birthday, but he's really vague, and he says, we're just going out to celebrate.
Yes.
And apparently she doesn't...
I'm sure we can all guess where this is going.
Yeah. And apparently she doesn't... she wants to know what their plan is, but she doesn't want to pry. Why is that prying?
It's not prying.
If you were going out for your mum's birthday, I'd be like, where are you going?
Yeah, where are you going? That's not
it's not a personal question, is it?
How dare you pry into my private life?
I know. And plus, usually she has no fucking trouble with prying, does she?
I know. She's pried into everyone
She pries
else.
every book.
She literally writes the eyes and ears column for the Oracle.
And he apologises that he won't be able to call her tomorrow, as he'll be busy all day with his mum.
Well, Liz forgives him for that.
Yeah, she says, I understand.
Yeah, I bet you do.
And then in bed that night, she smiles happily and thinks everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, see, she doesn't feel guilty about lying. She just doesn't want to get caught.
Of all the times that Liz has been up all night, not sleeping, worrying about something in these books, usually a situation that she's created.
Yeah.
But there's often where described Liz staying awake at night. She can't sleep because she's so worried. Not tonight.
No, she's
Fine.
literally smiling
Going
to
on
herself.
a date tomorrow, cheating on Todd. No worries. Happy. Good night's sleep.
Yeah, as long as she doesn't get caught, she doesn't care.
I feel like we're being so bitter right now, but God, I hate her in this book.
Oh, so Sunday was the kind of beautiful day that Sweet Valley was noted for.
Yeah, it never rains in Sweet Valley.
And Elizabeth was getting ready for her date.
Hmm.
She was able to get ready in peace because Jessica had gone out to Cara's.
Well, but then disaster strikes.
Yeah. So all day, Elizabeth does some pottering around the house and she just has a lovely day.
A wonderful
thinking
time.
How fucking amazing everything is.
Yeah.
She wore a natural silk shantung dress, the colour of her honey blonde hair, matching shoes, a gold belt, a bracelet, and of course her lavalier and her watch.
Yes.
She's all ready to slip out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
But then she hears Jess come in.
Oh, no. She's come home.
And she thinks, I know what I'll do. I'll slip on this jacket to hide my outfit. So she slips on a light summer jacket and she tries to sneak past Jess. But Jess spots her.
Yeah, she asked where she's going. And Liz lies, saying that she's going to Enid's. Jess, of course, falls for it and says that she doesn't understand why Liz hangs around with Enid, because Enid is 137 different kinds of nerd.
I didn't know there were that many kinds of nerd.
Well, she's the 137th, yeah. Randy was 136. So.
Liz breathes a sigh of relief once she's in the car.
Yeah.
She puts some tunes on and she hums along happily. See? Like no guilt. No guilt at all.
No, she doesn't care. She's
having
no
a great time.
Yeah. There's no guilt.
And she thinks to herself, nothing can go wrong now.
No, nothing.
Famous last words. The restaurant is really fancy.
Yeah, it is very fancy. She pulls up and is amazed by the valet parking.
Yeah.
She's greeted at the door.
A uniformed doorman leads her to a small room.
Yeah.
And Nicholas was standing with his back to her, watching two snow-white doves fluttering in a cage. What the actual fuck? I've never been to a restaurant where there are doves in cages.
No, that would be a first for me.
And also, it's really cruel anyway.
Well, it is, yeah.
He was wearing charcoal grey slacks, a black dinner jacket, and had a tasteful maroon ascot around his neck.
Oh.
And then we get tons of elaborate descriptions of this restaurant.
Oh God,
literally,
it's crazy.
They go so fucking over the top about this restaurant. So there's silver bowls filled with tiny tulips and miniature irises, gilded chairs and antique tables, antique paintings on the walls. That's all I've got. Have you got anything else?
No.
There's way more.
I just wrote they went way over the top with the description of this place. Like it's crazy.
Liz asks Nicholas if he's been waiting long, and he says, "All my life." And this isn't even the room where they're eating. They're led to a second room.
Yeah.
Their table was set with glittering silver and sparkling crystal, a bowl of pink rosebuds and pink candles.
Yeah.
They look at the menu, the huge leather-bound menu, and the waiter asks if they're ready to order. Nicholas asks Liz if she's decided or if she'd rather he ordered for her. What the hell?
Yeah, and Liz says, I'd rather you order for me. Is this something that people do?
I've written that down as well.
Because I would never. I'm like, no, I'll order from me. Thank you.
I wrote, fuck off, is that a thing?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I wrote. Because I was like, he doesn't even know you. Like, at least if you were out with Todd, even then it would be weird, but at least Todd knows what you like.
They're a restaurant they've never been to either.
With a guy who doesn't know her, or her taste, or anything. She could be allergic to things. He has no idea at all. But yeah, she's like, yeah, you order. And he basically says he's been planning this meal since they agreed to it. So he's
That's weird.
Like, each part of this meal has been planned.
Like, he literally wants to control what she eats.
Yeah. As if he wasn't disturbing enough already. Now he's like ordering for her and telling her what she'll eat. And
He orders them smoked salmon, tornadoes rossini, puffed potatoes, and haricots verts. I'm so shit at French. I have no idea what I'm saying.
German, I'm afraid. So
I did French.
Okay.
With strawberry souffle for dessert. I know I said souffle correctly.
Yep.
A waiter brings them still warm rolls with tiny sculpted rosettes of butter. Sounds delicious. Liz has never been to such a posh restaurant.
No. It's just the most fancy place she's ever been. Nicholas then decides to start laying it on thick. Apparently, it's really tough being a multi-millionaire and having loads of money. People have got misconceptions.
Yeah, he says that he prefers the dairy burger to this restaurant.
Well, why didn't you suggest going there, Nicholas? Apart from special occasions like this.
He says, I have very simple tastes. He's so humble.
Oh, yeah, he's such a humble, wonderful soul. Of course, they then inevitably get on to Liz's writing and reading. And of course, Nicholas says he's a big fan of Hemingway. And of course, that's one of Liz's favourites too.
Yeah, so Liz, basically has an orgasm over it.
Yeah, because
she's
found someone more sophisticated than Todd.
Yeah. And the salmon arrives and it's delicious, but Nicholas says it's not as good as the clam special at the Dairy Burger.
Oh, Nicholas, as if you weren't low enough in my books already.
And the main course, Liz says, is almost too beautiful to eat. It's decoratively arranged on a silver tray. And it seems like Nicholas talks about himself for most of the meal.
Pretty much, yeah. He talks about his business and his father's company. And
he tells her he swims, he plays tennis. Of course he plays tennis.
Obviously. He
skis in Alpen, sometimes St. Moritz, but his favourite place is Switzerland. Yeah, see? Simple taste. He says just as guy of simple taste.
Yeah, he says he skis and Liz is like, oh, anywhere around here? And he's like, the Alps.
Yeah. He tells her he wants to go into business with his father so he can do whatever he can to help make the Morrow Company a success.
Yeah, his father's done so much for him and he wants to repay that.
And Liz is touched by his humility and she says that's beautiful. It's like, wow, going into business with your rich dad, such humility. It's so beautiful.
I was a bit triggered by what Liz thinks here. That she thinks that despite his money, Nicholas is just a regular guy.
He's really not.
Nicholas Morrow, on behalf of all men, this is not a regular guy. This is not regular behaviour, I hope, for most guys. This guy is the creepiest. Oh my god. I honestly cannot decide who I'm hating more in this book, but
yeah,
it's close.
He asks if she'll go out with him again, and she says, it's been wonderful, but I'm not in love with you. Isn't that like the strangest way to end a first date ever?
Yeah, it's the first date. I would be shocked if you were in love with me.
If you were on a first date and they were like, at the end, like, I'm just not in love with you.
I'd be like, good? Because that would be very sudden.
I'm not in love with you either, you weirdo.
Well, of course, Nicholas is in love with her. Within 45 minutes of meeting her, he's in love with her.
Just the most random sentence to say on a first date.
It's such an awkward line, yeah.
They agree to stay friends, but apparently she can see the pain in his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
But then suddenly,
well,
she spots a guy coming towards them.
Yeah, this restaurant's really fancy. It might be a really nice place to, take a loved one.
Yeah.
If you were celebrating their birthday, maybe.
Yeah.
Something a bit fancier than a Dairy Burger.
So the guy coming towards her.
What is he? Who does he look like?
Todd.
It can't be Todd. Surely it's not Todd.
But then she realises he must be there to celebrate his mum's birthday.
Yes, and Liz panics, thinking, what on earth is she going to do? But it's too late. Todd is walking with his family, and he sees her, and he stops dead in his tracks, saying only Elizabeth. But then it gets even worse. Because remember when Liz was going to tell him, and she was like, I'm going to tell him. He'll understand. He's an understanding guy. Well, take it away. What happens next?
So she puts on her best Jessica voice and she says, you should be able to tell the difference between us by now. Wait until I tell Liz, you're going to be in 137 kinds of trouble.
Liz lies, pretends to be Jess. Todd's family laugh at Todd for the mistake.
He's just really confused.
He's really confused because he's sure that she's Liz, right?
Yeah.
This plan is terrible because even if you got away with it, I actually put this here, and obviously this does come back to bite her, but even if you got away with this now, today, tomorrow, this is going to come up in conversation. Like, if this was Jessica, she would say to Liz, right? Like, the conversation would happen. At some point, this conversation's going to happen.
Yeah. Or Todd will say to Jessica.
To Jessica.
How was the meal?
Your date? Or I'm sorry for,
what did you have
for mistaking you.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to come up. It's not like you're never going to see Jessica again to get away with this.
Yeah.
Like, this is not going to work.
But Todd says, I'll see you around, Jess, and walks on.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth tells Nicholas she's never done anything like this before. But I just couldn't bear to hurt Todd's feelings.
Yeah, she's extremely lucky because Nicholas was so shocked at what she did that he didn't know how to respond. She was so lucky that he didn't outright just say, like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. And again, she's making out like, oh, I only lied because I didn't want to hurt Todd.
Yeah, I only lied because I'm such a good person.
She keeps lying, and she's like, it's only because I'm such a good person.
I'm such a
I don't want to hurt people.
Girl. Yeah, yeah.
You're creating all of this yourself.
Yep.
This is all your fault.
Mm-hmm. So, to make things worse, Todd is sat at his mother's birthday.
Car.
Well, yeah, and during the meal. And he's feeling guilty. He feels terrible that he mistook the two. I mean, like, he's been going out with Liz forever, and now he's like, I've made the mistake that everyone makes with these two, and he feels really bad about it. So yeah, in the car on the way back, he comes to the conclusion he's going to go and apologise. He's going to explain what happened, and they'll all have a laugh about it.
Yeah. So as soon as he gets out of his parents' car, he jumps into his own car, and he speeds over to apologise to Liz.
Yeah.
And he thinks I better get to her before Jess does.
Yeah, yeah.
But Jessica answers the door in a bathrobe.
Yes, and Todd immediately plants a kiss on her. And,
as he thinks it's Liz.
He thinks it's Liz. Well, of course he does.
Because he thinks Jess is at a restaurant.
Yes. And Liz is home because Liz has no plans. Liz said she had no plans, so she would be home.
Jess says, wow, no wonder Liz likes you so much.
Yeah. The gig is up.
Jess exclaims, Todd says, oh my God, you're Jessica.
Yeah.
Very good, she said coldly. He starts gasping, and Jessica says, what's going on? So he tells her everything. He says he's been to the Côte d'Or, and Jessica says she wishes somebody would take her there.
Yeah.
And he's furious.
Yeah,
he explains what happened.
And then she is understandably fucking fuming too.
They're both livid.
Yeah.
He actually punches the door frame.
Yeah.
He says he's going to tell Liz they're finished, and he goes over to his car and he kicks one of his tires.
Yeah.
So he's really fucking bad. He's going to kill that guy.
He's going to kill that guy.
Liz arrives home later on. She's feeling relieved, like the smug
she's got away with it. Yeah, she got away with everything.
But Jessica's waiting for her, hands on hips and blue-green eyes blazing with fury.
It's Hurricane Jess.
She asks Liz how her evening was with dear little Enid, and Liz says it was nothing special. Jess remarks that she certainly dressed up for the occasion. And Liz was...
pointing at the dress.
Yeah, and Liz lies and says, Enid wanted to see my new outfit. And Jess is like, too bad she didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
And then she tells Liz that Todd has told her everything.
Yeah. She blames Liz for trying to steal her, quote, boyfriend.
Yeah.
She's like, at this point in her mind, she's like, we're practically together.
And she says, if you think I'm furious, you should see Todd.
Yeah. Liz is like, for once, momentarily speechless. But what I love about this scene is that Liz tries to fucking justify her actions again.
She says, I only went because I owed it to Nicholas to get to know him.
Yeah.
Did you owe? You didn't owe him anything.
What I love is that every time Liz tries to justify it, Jess is straight in there pointing out how fucking stupid she is and how none of this adds up.
She says she was just trying to be fair to Nicholas. Be fair to your sister and your boyfriend.
Yeah, be fair to the people that you love and care for.
And you actually know.
Not the creepy guy who's been hanging around and stalking you all evening.
But then she starts crying and Jessica says, okay, I forgive you.
Yeah, why does she forgive her?
Because she's decided that Nicholas wasn't for her anyway, as all of these computer types are dull, dull, dull. She got over that really fast.
Well, she called him her boyfriend 2 seconds ago.
I know. It was really
I'm assuming that this is like Jess's defense, though, isn't it? Because she's done this before, like with Scott. When it all went wrong with Scott, she was immediately like, "Oh, I don't like him anymore. Anyway, it's fine. I'm over him." It's like, I don't think she can ever lose, so she'll always say that she's not interested. So I think because Nicholas has shown so much interest in Liz, Jess is like, "I'm not interested in him anyway."
Yeah,
I think it's more that.
Probably, actually. Liz goes to bed, but she just can't sleep.
Oh, now she can't sleep.
So she calls Todd, but his mum says he's gone to bed to rest up for the big game tomorrow.
Yeah, he said not to disturb.
And Liz thinks that's a lie. And he told his mum to say that.
She'd know all about fucking lies, wouldn't she?
At school on Monday, Todd avoids Liz all day.
Good.
And later on, she heads to the Oracle office. And tall, slim, young and attractive Mr. Collins is there.
Oh, Mr. Collins, where's Teddy?
He wants her to cover the basketball game.
Yes, he says it'll be good, a good practice for her about being objective as a writer, because obviously her lovely boyfriend, who she would never cheat on and is very, committed to, will be playing.
She tells him she's not up to it, but he won't take no for an answer.
Yeah,
I thought she was going to confide in him.
So was I.
But she actually doesn't this time.
I think she knows.
Yeah, she can't admit what she's done to Mr. Collins.
Always confides in Mr. Collins, and I was expecting it. It didn't happen, and immediately after, I thought it's because she goddamn knows she's wrong.
He would have told her straight.
Yeah, he would have, and she doesn't want him to think that of her.
Yeah. So at the basketball game, she sits with Enid, and her heart leaps when she sees Todd, but he snubs her.
Yeah, good.
And then we get a couple of pages about the game.
Todd's rubbish.
Yeah, basically,
because
to sum it up, Todd isn't playing well.
But he gets to the point where people in the audience are groaning at Todd's shots.
Yeah, people are booing him
in the first half.
Really sorry for him.
I feel so bad for Todd in this book. Honestly.
And then at half time, fucking prick Nicholas comes over and tells Liz, "Oh, I thought Todd was meant to be a good player."
Yeah,
fuck off. What are you doing? He's better than you. This is your fault.
Yeah, and now when Todd looks up as he's heading back, for half time, he sees Nicholas standing with Liz as well, just making it look even worse.
Yeah. Liz tells him that it's all her fault, and she explains what happened.
Not that she needs to explain, really.
And Nicholas says, "I'm going to go and straighten things out with Todd."
Now, I thought this was going to end in a punch to the face.
I wish it did.
So do I.
This bit's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Nicholas strides into the locker room and Todd says, "Go away, I don't want to talk to you." But he says, "I need to apologise." And he explains to Todd that he begged Liz to go out with him and he put pressure on her, but that it's Todd she loves.
Quote of the entire book. Quote. He says, "Elizabeth would never deceive you. Nicholas, she fucking deceived him yesterday. You were part of that deception. You were at the table when she deceived him. What are you talking about?"
But Todd springs to his feet and he gave an exuberant whoop. And he says, "Everything's different." And then he throws his arm around Nicholas.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It literally goes from Todd being understandably pissed off to Nicholas saying, "Oh, it was all my fault because I came on to her."
Yeah.
And that somehow gets Liz completely off the hook for going on a date with him. So that's it.
Yeah.
Man. It's sorted. Don't worry about it. Because, Liz had no control over her actions. Nicholas forced her to do a date with him at this really posh restaurant.
If that was the case, he's not even mad at Nicholas anymore either. He puts his arm around Nicholas.
Well, yes, he does. We'll get to it in a moment. But he says that he doesn't think Nicholas is such a bad guy after all.
I don't understand.
I mean, like, literally,
he just told you he came on to your girlfriend and put pressure on her.
This would not make things okay between you and Nicholas.
No.
Right? And B, there is no there's nothing about Liz's actions in this. Todd is just fine with it now. He's like, oh yeah, so you basically kept on at her until she went on a date. Oh, I understand. What?
It's
Liz
insane.
is responsible for her own actions. But here she just gets away with it. Don't worry about it.
She's just trying to be nice.
She's just trying to be nice. Oh no, she had to be a good host. Don't worry.
And then during the second half, Todd just miraculously scores loads of goals and saves the day.
Yeah, he's fine now and he's just amazing.
He's like the best basketball player ever. He scores the winning goal with just 3 seconds to go.
Oh my God.
Everyone goes wild and he's carried around on his teammates' shoulders.
All those people that were booing him and groaning are now cheering.
Yeah. Jessica tells Liz there's a fabulous party at Cara's, but Liz says she's too upset to go.
Yeah.
And she decides to walk home, and she even gives Jess the car keys.
Yes, she says, you know, you take the Spider, even though
Jess
our parents won't let you.
Driving, yeah.
Yeah, but
she
fine.
doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, she's like, whatever. My life's ruined now anyway.
On Liz's long walk home, she thinks of a line from her favourite Robert Frost poem, "And miles to go before I sleep." She'd been so moved the first time she read it that she cried, and vowed from then on to do her very best no matter what she wrote. So she vows to turn the best article she can to Mr. Collins about the game.
Great, well you do that.
Suddenly she hears footsteps behind her and she feels a hand on her shoulder. Why do people keep doing this to her?
I would have assumed it was Nicholas Morrow at this
that's
point.
what I know. That's what I was about to say. Well, for a change, it was not Nicholas.
No, for a change it's the right person.
It's Todd. He spun her around and he gave her a long, deep kiss. "Oh, Todd," she said. He told her that Nicholas had explained and that Nicholas isn't such a bad guy after all.
Yes, he is.
He is.
He is. He put pressure on a woman that was kidnapped a week ago to go on a date with her and with him. He followed her around, stalked her all night, stalked her at the mall. Literally, this guy is horrendous. And also, let's not forget, still doesn't excuse what Liz has done. But I'm just saying, he's not a good guy.
But they kiss and make up, and they decide to go to Cara's party. And the droids are playing twice in one book.
Yeah.
They're in Cara's living room this time. Todd gets a hero's welcome, and I can't fucking believe this. They get to the party. I can't actually believe this. Nicholas comes over and he asks Todd if he can dance with Elizabeth.
And what does he say?
He says, Todd says, "You can have her for 5 minutes." Like, does she get a say in this, or are you just going to pass her around from guy to guy?
Pass her around is fine.
But
the guy who literally told you that he was obsessed with your girlfriend the same day.
Yeah, it was probably about an hour or two before.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And it's unbelievable Nicholas would even ask that.
Yeah,
well,
like after
you'd think
all
he'd
of
just
this.
stay out of the way,
realise
he caused a whole load of shit, and just make himself scarce.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Cara comes over, and she's got a message for the twins.
Oh no.
They need to call their mother back.
Yeah.
So they're really concerned, and they head to the study. And Alice tells them that it's Trisha. She's in hospital, and the end is near.
Yeah.
They're needed at the hospital. And Jessica says maybe it's a false alarm. It's like, I don't think it's going to be a false alarm.
No. Leukemia doesn't tend to be a false alarm.
But they both head to the hospital right away because Stephen's there and Mum and Dad are there.
Yeah,
so.
they're waiting. Yeah.
And then it says in the preview, is this really the end for Trisha Martin? Find out in Sweet Valley High, number 15, Promises.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to that. That sounds very jolly.
Sounds like a happy book. But what was jolly was this book. I had so much fun reading this book. I despise Elizabeth.
I was very
after
angry,
this book.
but I enjoyed it.
I was angry, but very amused and very entertained.
Yeah.
Liz is awful. Nicholas is awful. Jess did something in this book that would normally get us like raging and talking about how horrible she is, but in comparison to what Liz is doing, Jess just gets away with it. I wasn't even like thinking about it.
No.
To be honest. Like Liz literally got Jess literally got someone to break the law, commit a federal offence to try and change her grade. I didn't even care because I was so outraged at Liz that it just didn't even matter by comparison.
Well, everyone getting all tongue-tied. Everyone on Instagram was outraged as well.
Tell us about it.
Jolie Char 79 says, Nicholas is so freaking pushy. I hate him. She has a boyfriend, and Liz is just ...
Yeah, agreed.
Waterware said that on the cover, Nicholas looks 50.
He does look quite old, actually. Yeah, old and sleazy.
He looks like a 50-year-old man. And Elizabeth cheats on her boyfriend about 50 times throughout the series.
I know. So this is like the start, isn't it? This is the start of it, because you've told me that she's not very faithful.
No.
And I guess this is where it begins.
Trigtastic said, this guy makes me livid, pestering a girl after she's been kidnapped by a man obsessed with her.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's the worst.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, it's obviously, as it goes on, I got really outraged with Liz, but it is disgusting the way Nicholas behaves at that party. Like a week after she's been kidnapped, the way he's behaving. Yeah. It's just awful.
Racy Evans says, I forgot about Nicholas. I bloody didn't. Didn't Jessica also date Nicholas? I feel like Jessica always dates Liz's exes. Nicholas, Todd, Ken, Sam. I'm sure I'm missing a few more. Well, stay tuned, and you'll find out. SV and BSC Bookworm says, oh, this book makes me so angry. If Elizabeth was a real person, was in front of me, I would have slapped her.
Enid should have slapped her.
And Nicholas is, well, an asshole.
Yeah, I agree, and I like I said to you, I was really shocked with Enid, because as you know, like she says, you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and she also said she keeps thinking, if this was real life, how would Nicholas feel if his girlfriend went on a date with someone else? Exactly.
Well, this is the question, isn't it? Because if Liz followed the rules that Nicholas sets in this book, then she could go with Nicholas, but then just go out on a date with Ken Matthews as well. And would Nicholas be okay with that? Because that's the logic he's using. Don't get tied down to one person. You're too young. Well, that includes you, Nicholas.
Yeah. Burial Shroud said, oh my God, this is from the Goodreads description. Even though Elizabeth would never cheat on Todd Wilkins, her steady boyfriend. And then she says, what? This whole series could be renamed Cheating on Todd Wilkins.
This whole book series could just be renamed Deceptions.
Yeah. So everybody hates Nicholas.
I do too. I didn't like him in the last book, but I really hate him in this book.
Well, he's not going anywhere. I'll warn you now.
I'm sure he's not.
For a long time.
Like Bruce Patman and all the other abusive, weird guys.
Yeah.
No repercussions, and they'll just hang around forever.
So, yeah, that was Deceptions.
It was, and damned entertaining it was too.
You can find us on Facebook at Kelly's Roadhouse Podcast. We're on Instagram as just Kelly's Roadhouse, I think.
Yep, at Kelly's Roadhouse.
So please give us a follow and a like, and let us know your comments on this book if you read it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back with Casey's next week.
Yep, I can't remember what the book is.
We finished our Olympics one, and now we're going back to the series. I think
Sneaking Out.
5, Sneaking Out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we will be continuing with Kelly's Roadhouse in 2 weeks' time. So, thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for the comments. Keep them coming in. I absolutely love the comments. I look forward to it.
I'm so glad that everyone else hates Nicholas as much as I do.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad everyone is kind of with us on this one. But yes, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.